It's one of our greatest fears. Being on a plane when something goes badly wrong. This series reveals what it's like to live through catastrophic events on board an aircraft.
I just had visions of being burnt alive on this plane.
Using footage that captured these terrifying moments. And hearing from those who survived them.
Everyone looked tense in their seats. It felt like this could be their final moments of their lives.
I looked out to see some of the engine flying off.
At that point, I planned to meet my maker.
These are the world's worst flights.
All right, we're gonna land field right here.
Today, air travel is safer than ever. Thanks to advances in technology and training. But one thing that remains beyond our control is Mother Nature. And weather is the main contributing factor in nearly a quarter of all air accidents. In this episode, an iced-up engine brings a flight to a terrifying end.
I grabbed that baby. I didn't care about anything else.
Families face an emergency after extreme winds down their plane.
I just wanted to get out of there because I could see the chaos inside.
And an ill-fated brush with nature leaves passengers needing a miracle to survive.
The plane is broken apart, and I'm gonna drown. I thought I was dead.
Second of February, 2013. 21-year-old Cara Fielding was preparing to take to the skies for the very first time.
I was a little bit nervous that morning just because I had never flown before. Where I'm from, we have mountains, rivers, and valleys, and I was so excited to see this from the air.
For her birthday, Cara's parents had arranged a trip in a light aircraft. Along for the ride were Cara's husband, Jonathan, and their baby, Jacob.
He was about 7 months at the time. It's like, this will be great. He'll love it. He'll probably won't remember any of it, but let's take him.
The final seat was taken by Cara's mum, Catherine.
I have always loved small airplanes. You can see everything. It's kind of more exciting.
At 12:45, the single-engine plane took off from Logan Cache Airport. The sightseeing trip was expected to take about 30 minutes.
This particular day was very clear. There was a break in the weather, all the haze was gone. It was beautiful and crisp and clean, and it was even a little bit warm. My mom would point some things out, and my husband would point some things out. I was just in awe and fascination the entire time.
After their initial climb, Jonathan, who had his 7-month-old son on his knee, began filming clips on his phone.
Well, right now, I'm just making this video. I love my family. We are over the top of the overpass.
We just went over the valley. It was gorgeous. And last minute, we decided to go over the top of one of the mountains.
As the single-engine plane climbed over the 9,000-foot Wellsville Mountains, Catherine noticed something strange.
I realized it was quiet. And you couldn't hear the muffled sound of the propeller.
The pilot gets on the intercom and says there had been some kind of mechanical failure.
A sudden buildup of ice inside the carburetor was choking the engine.
We were just told that there's carburetor ice. I'm not worried. I think we're gonna be just fine. But this is kind of scary. and kind of exciting at the same time. I was so confident that we would be okay, and I just thought this was going to be a mild inconvenience.
The propeller was turning, but the engine didn't have enough power to keep them in the air. The plane was losing altitude fast.
You feel absolutely helpless. That ground is 8,500 feet below you. There's nothing you can do about it.
After several failed attempts to get the engine back up to speed, the pilot decided they couldn't make it back to the airport. They needed to make an emergency landing.
My first thought went to my son. I just had to trust that everything would be okay and that my husband was going to do his best to protect him.
I completely trusted in God that we would be fine. Well, right now we're looking for a place to land. Just got a prayer in our heart, and I think we're gonna be just fine.
The roads were full. And not only that, there were ice spots and power lines. And I was really just trying to figure out how on earth we could land somewhere out here.
I thought, this could be it. This could be it. My husband could be raising our children by himself.
With traffic and ice making the roads too dangerous, the pilot decided to land in a field.
All I remember is thinking, is this really happening? I feel like I went into shock. I got sweaty, I started shaking.
Less than a minute after spotting a potential field, the pilot made his final approach. Jonathan held onto Jacob, who was not strapped in.
We passed over the field, and we came and circled back around. That threw us really hard into our seats, because he made that turn really sharp.
All of a sudden, we were close to the snow. There was a fence, and I thought, we better not hit that.
I've got my son on my lap very naively, and I pull out my phone and I go, all right, we're gonna land the field right here.
Second of February 2013. An iced-up engine had forced a light aircraft pilot to attempt an emergency landing in a field. On board was Cara Fielding's family, including her 7-month-old son, who was being held by her husband.
All right, we're gonna land the field right here.
I saw black, and all the light was cut off. It was a blur. Then we stopped, and I realized we were upside down.
The impact had thrown Jonathan's phone forward into the cockpit.
Okay. I didn't expect that.
When we came to a stop, I was like this. And I had held on to my son.
I was the first one out. And I grabbed that baby. I didn't care about anything else. And I was never so grateful to hear him cry in my life because it meant he was alive.
I passed him off upside down to my wife, who took him, looked him over, and he was just fine.
My family was okay. I felt the most incredible love I have ever felt in my life. It just, like a blanket, encompassed me.
Okay, well, we have just survived a crash landing.
Wow. The snow is brighter and the sun is brighter and the sky is bluer because we're alive.
I knew that we'd be fine. I didn't expect that. Okay. Why were we so lucky? We all survived. We all walked away.
That's the first time I've ever watched that one. Oh my gosh, we could have died.
Kara, are you okay? You gonna ever fly again?
Yeah. I felt kind of responsible because I was the reason we went up.
And I'm still recording. All right. Okay.
I was so annoyed that he was filming. I wanted him there next to me. I wanted him holding me. I wanted him comforting me.
This crash was actually kind of a turning point in our marriage personally. Life is precious, and we were spared, and my son was spared, and this family is gonna go on.
An official investigation found it likely that carburetor ice clogged the engine and caused the loss of power. The report noted the humid weather was conducive to carburetor ice forming mid-flight.
All right, we're gonna land field right here.
When the pilot landed, the layers of snow and ice on the field caused the wheels to dig in and the plane to flip forwards. For the young family, it was an extremely fortunate escape. In the past decade in the US, carburetor ice has caused over 200 accidents and 13 fatalities.
One of the paramedics said, "You guys know how lucky you are." When they heard there were 5 people involved, they brought 5 body bags, expecting there to be fatalities. And they were all really blown away that we all walked away from it.
It's not only light aircraft that are at the mercy of the weather. Airliners must also be ready to handle anything nature throws at them. Like this lightning strike at Atlanta Airport in 2015. Though spectacular, it caused no casualties. Modern planes are covered with metal mesh to conduct lightning away and minimize damage. Another common weather effect feared by passengers is turbulence. In 2015, Nico Golfar filmed on his phone as his flight went through a turbulent patch of air over the US.
This makes a roller coaster look like nothing.
This incident was not serious, but turbulence has been known to cause injury and even death. Airline pilots train to land in high winds every 6 months. But some extreme scenarios are impossible to prepare for. August 3rd, 2016. A hot, gusty day at one of the world's busiest transport hubs, Dubai International Airport. Among the thousands of travelers were the Shaheed family from Yorkshire, who'd been visiting relatives in India.
We always look forward to our yearly trip because that's the first time then we meet the family and the kids love it.
It was really fun seeing everyone, and me and my brother were really excited to go there every year.
On the way back to the UK, the family had planned to stop over in Dubai. They were on board Emirates flight EK521, making the 4-hour journey from India to Dubai. Around 12:30 local time, the pilot prepared to land and made contact with air traffic control.
Hello, Emirates 521. Clear to land 12 left, Emirates 521.
EK521 was set for a routine landing.
We were going down, we were like descending, and then we had like last minute turbulence. I like thought nothing of it at the time. I like kind of just a little nervous laugh.
When it landed, it was a really loud metallic noise and we all shook. It was kind of like violent shake.
Warnings sounded in the cockpit, and the pilot tried to take off and go around again for another landing. They lifted to 85 feet and then suddenly dropped.
It just fell onto the ground and we were all thrown up from our seats.
It was like an awful scratching noise and it was so loud you could feel it like rumbling inside the plane.
As the plane skidded along the runway, the right engine broke off. After 800 meters, the aircraft came to rest by a taxiway.
When it stopped, I thought, okay, thank goodness it stopped, so that's it, we are all safe. Then when I looked out the window on my right side and I could see smoke.
There are people in that plane.
The captain made a mayday call to the tower.
When there's no way to get out and we know that this is on fire and it's not stopping, it was really scary.
As panic broke out in the cabin, one of the other passengers began filming with their phone.
It was chaos inside.
Smoke was just filling inside the plane. I thought the plane would just explode.
My kids were asking me, are we going to die? That feeling is, it's really bad. Like when you know that might happen and then you can't do anything to help them.
Outside the cabin, the fire was rapidly spreading, fed by the remaining fuel in the tanks. But not everyone was in a rush to evacuate.
These people were trying to they were blocking the way. They were trying to get their luggage. I didn't really understand how you'd want to get your luggage when you could be trying to save your life.
They don't realize they are responsible for other people's life as well. It was shocking, absolutely shocking.
The fire had almost reached the main fuel tank. The passengers had just minutes to escape before an explosion would turn the cabin into a deadly inferno. At Dubai International Airport, Emirates flight EK521 had been hit by extreme winds on final approach and crash landed. The Shaheed family from Yorkshire were among the 282 passengers trapped on board as fire broke out and panic swept through the cabin. In just a few moments, the plane could be totally engulfed in flames.
I told my children, okay, we need to get out of here. I was literally pushing people out of my way.
When I barged past everyone, I just ran to the door. I knew that once they opened the kind of inflatable slide would come out.
One of the passengers kept filming as they escaped down the slide.
As I went down the slide, I was off the plane, but then I remember looking back and there were so many people on this slide.
Strong winds and fire rendered half the emergency slides useless, leaving 282 passengers to use just 5 working slides.
I'd fallen on that thing and people were jumping over me and I just couldn't get up. When I came out, I told them to run. And we just ran away from the aircraft.
We were just looking back at the plane. A couple of minutes after we got out, it wasn't the whole plane, but the roof actually exploded.
When fire reached the central fuel tank, the fuselage blew apart.
We'd all been dead if we were still inside when that happened. We were so lucky. I just couldn't believe that I got out of that thing alive.
One of the firefighters who'd helped evacuate the passengers was caught up in the blast.
We were in the hangar, and as we were leaving to go to another room, I remember seeing the firefighter because he was so out of breath. There were 2 people beside him kind of dragging him along, like he couldn't walk.
Tragically, the firefighter later died.
It was quite upsetting. He was there to help us, which he did, and he lost his life in return.
The official investigation into the accident, the most serious in Emirates' 33-year history, is still ongoing. But it's believed that on EK521's approach, the wind switched from a headwind to a tailwind.
Wind is a major factor in landing and indeed taking off, but probably more critically on landing. Probably the worst case scenario is a change from a headwind that's making sure your ground speed is nice and low to a tailwind that's going to be pushing you along the runway. That's a difficult one to handle.
It's thought the plane was being pushed too far down the runway. When the pilot tried to go around or take off for a second landing attempt, something went badly wrong.
They pulled the nose up, they raised the undercarriage, they called for the flaps to come in. But the power didn't come on. Now, why it didn't come on, we're not 100% sure at the moment. But what that ended up meaning, the aircraft got to 85 feet and ran out of airspeed, so they ended up crashing back onto the runway.
You never think, oh, that could be me, until it actually happens to you. I'm more grateful that this situation was not actually as bad as it could have been, because it could have been a lot worse.
We'll never forget this day. We will never forget what happened. It's scary, to say the least. I hope it's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience and nobody has to go through that.
If sudden wind changes are difficult to predict, diverting flights around large weather systems has become almost routine. But when things go wrong, the impact is shocking. In August 2015, one of the passengers filmed as Delta Flight 1889 from Boston to Salt Lake City flew into a storm. Severe turbulence and hail the size of baseballs battered the plane, which made an emergency landing at Denver. The windshield and nose cone area that houses the weather radar were cracked and damaged. The pilot had been flying virtually blind. cruising altitude, pilots and air traffic control have time to cope with almost anything nature throws at them. But when the unexpected strikes close to the ground, the pilot needs to think fast to avoid disaster. (15th of January 2009). At LaGuardia Airport, Denise Lockie was catching a flight back home to North Carolina after a business trip in New York.
I absolutely love flying. I have been flying for the majority of my career. I like the excitement of travel and the excitement of meeting people.
Denise was in the first class section at the front of the plane. Mark Hood, another frequent business flyer, was sat next to her. Before takeoff, the pair began to get acquainted.
Denise began to engage me in conversation. So much so that we quickly realized that we had nothing in common. She didn't like sports, I do. We were from completely different political parties.
Mark and I had talked about a few other things that were going on in the country, and we agreed to disagree, and I knew I just better zip it up because I was never, ever going to see him again.
At 3:25 p.m., the weather was clear as US Airways Flight 1549 took off from LaGuardia and headed for Charlotte, North Carolina.
There was nothing unusual about the actual takeoff. Once you're up at 10,000 feet, you can relax and unwind. And I always look for that 10,000 ding.
All of a sudden, as we were gaining altitude, we'd probably been into the flight 2 or 3 minutes. It felt like the plane had been hit by a giant baseball bat. Very quickly, my eye was drawn to the engine, which was on fire. It sounded like tennis shoes and an electric dryer. Boom, 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 boom.
The aircraft was completely engulfed in smoke, and it had a putrid smell. It's 9/11 again. That was my first thought that came into my mind.
The passengers didn't know it, but 2 minutes after takeoff, the plane had hit a flock of geese at 250 miles an hour, knocking out both engines. 30 seconds later, while still above the Bronx area of New York, the pilot reported the emergency to air traffic control.
This is Cactus 1539, hit birds to lost thrust on both engines, returning back towards LaGuardia.
Okay, you need to return to LaGuardia. Turn left heading up 220.
220.
Air traffic controllers quickly alerted the tower at LaGuardia.
Tower, stop your departures. Got emergency returning. Who is it? 1529. Bird strike. He lost all engine. He lost the thrust in the engines. He's returning immediately.
Cactus 1529. Which engines?
He lost thrust in both engines, he said.
Got it.
Events were unfolding so fast, there wasn't time to brief the frightened passengers.
People were screaming and crying, and there was just a lot of noise.
A minute after his first call, the pilot decided they couldn't make it back to LaGuardia.
What's over to our right? Anything in New Jersey, maybe Teterboro?
Okay, yeah, off your right side is Teterboro Airport.
The closest airfield, the small Teterboro Airport, scrambled emergency services. With no engines and no thrust, the plane was quickly losing altitude above the crowded city streets.
Well, you could see where the apartment buildings in Manhattan and New Jersey, and you're getting lower and lower, and you can count the floors almost.
The pilot faced a critical decision. Try to make it to Teterboro Airport or find somewhere else to land.
Runway 280, you can land runway 1 at Teterboro.
We can't do it.
Once we turned over the George Washington Bridge, it was very apparent we were going to crash.
Okay, which runway would you like at Teterboro?
We're going to be in Hudson.
I'm sorry, say again, Cactus?
The plane began to glide towards the only other open space, the Hudson River.
I started to think about the fact that I wasn't going to be around. It was tough. That's when Mark took my hand and he started to pray. We prayed together.
I prayed for the pilot, I prayed for the crew and the passengers, and then I prayed for my family, that my daughter would be happy in New York and not be haunted by this.
At 3:30, the pilot made his only announcement to the 150 passengers. Brace for impact.
At that point, I planned to meet my maker. The next conversation I had with God to be face to face.
January 15th, 2009, US Airways Flight 1549 had hit a flock of geese and lost both engines. The pilot decided to ditch into the Hudson River.
I heard the flight attendant chanting, "Heads down, stay down, brace, brace." The commands got louder and louder the closer we got to the water.
CCTV captured the moment the plane hit the river at 150 miles an hour.
We hit once, we hit again, and skidded to a halt. At that moment, I realized, the good Lord let me know that we weren't going to die that day.
The 150 passengers had survived the impact, but were not out of danger.
My thought process was, the plane is broken apart and I'm going to drown. I thought I was dead.
I reached over and touched her on the back and said, "Hey, come on, we gotta go."
I said, "I believe we're in heaven."
And I said, "No, it's not heaven, and I'm no angel." I said, "But we gotta go."
Water was already rushing into the cabin. The Airbus's escape slides also doubled as life rafts.
Our slide raft did not deploy properly. It was upside down, and I was hesitant.
I helped her out into the raft, and it was about a 3-foot fall she took into the raft.
So I immediately hit the water, although the slide raft was underneath, but I was drenched. It was bone-chilling cold.
The water temperature was just 2 degrees Celsius.
You'd hear people starting to shiver. People weren't going to last that long.
The plane was in a section of the river that was busy with commuter traffic. The first ferry reached them after 4 minutes.
There were people on the wings and falling into the water, and it was the first boat coming on the port side of the aircraft, and I remember we were yelling, "Go there, go there," so they went and started rescuing the people.
Having helped other passengers, Mark and Denise were among the last remaining on the raft, along with the flight's captain.
The last ferry pulled up. The gentleman reached his hand down for me, and I turned to Captain Sullenberger. I said, "Sir, you want to go first?" Because he was older than I was. He said, "No, I'll be the last one out of this raft, young man."
Captain Sully Sullenberger was later the subject of a Hollywood movie, which covered the landing and its aftermath. The event has gone down in history as the miracle on the Hudson.
When I think of my family, I always think of Denise, my seatmate. We'll be linked forever by that event that day.
It's one of the strongest memories. It bonded us for life.
All passengers and crew were rescued. An official investigation found geese weighing 8 pounds had disabled both engines. But safety standards still don't require aircraft to withstand strikes from birds of this size.
They use a bird that's big enough that you're likely to hit that sort of bird, and you've got to be able to contain it. So that's what our engines are certified for. Some of the very large birds, you couldn't make an engine that was strong enough to take a hit from a very large bird. So you'll end up with an engine that was so heavy, so protected, you wouldn't be able to get it into the air.
Airlines carry 3.6 billion passengers each year and fly in almost any weather. But in 2017, the catastrophic Atlantic hurricane season saw 25,000 flights cancelled. One flight, though, defied the odds and flew towards the biggest hurricane of all. In early September 2017, the outlook for Puerto Rico was sun and scattered clouds. Karen and Jeff Hongslow from Minnesota were enjoying a last-minute Caribbean break.
We'd wake up in the morning, we'd sit on our deck, which was oceanside, and just listen to the sound of the ocean coming in and just enjoying the sun.
The weather was nice, it was beautiful, it was sunny, calm. It was just, we were out at the beach pretty much all the time.
But autumn is the height of hurricane season. And a tropical storm that began in the East Atlantic was moving across the ocean.
We hadn't been on the island very long. We were constantly checking the Weather Channel. I even added a hurricane app to my cell phone so I could check.
On the 4th of September, the storm had turned into a hurricane and was heading straight for Puerto Rico. Karen received an alert on her phone.
I started getting a little nervous, just saying, "God, this really looks like this is gonna happen." Every day, we didn't think things could get worse, and they did.
The hurricane was growing stronger by the hour. In Puerto Rico, the locals were taking no chances.
They started putting up metal over the windows of the hotel. We knew it was definitely going to come. We thought maybe if we could get out earlier, then we could beat the storm.
Karen and Jeff booked a flight for the following day.
My cell phone, it went off with this huge alarm in the middle of the night. It said hurricane warning, hurricane warning.
The hurricane had grown into a Category 5, the most dangerous kind. With 185 miles per hour winds, it was the most powerful hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic. It was named Irma.
That got pretty scary pretty fast. I think I was in a panic mode.
On the morning of the 6th of September, as wind and rain lashed Puerto Rico, Karen and Jeff hurried to catch their flight.
Every minute that it took, the hurricane was getting stronger and closer. Once we got into the airport itself, it was empty.
When you get down the terminal and you start walking, there was nobody there.
It was an airport that wasn't even functioning as an airport anymore. Everything was shut down.
All other flights had been cancelled. Karen and Jeff didn't know if their ride home had met the same fate.
We came around a corner and looked down a long hallway. We could see the silhouette of people.
Just after noon, as the eye of the hurricane approached, they boarded Delta Flight DL-302. The plane was turned around and ready to go in just 40 minutes.
Irma was not going to stop for our plane. We got to get out of here now.
173 passengers boarded Flight DL-302 for the 3-hour, 45-minute flight to New York. By now, Irma was skirting the north of Puerto Rico. The pilot had no choice but to fly through the hurricane. At 12:41, amateur footage captured the moment that flight DL-302 began its takeoff run.
It was pretty bumpy, and I took a video as we were leaving.
Karen filmed inside the cabin on her phone.
This is what it's like to take off in a hurricane.
I'm so desperately wanting those wheels to actually be off the ground.
And we are we're in the air. Goodbye, Puerto Rico.
I hear excitement in my voice because I know we're getting out.
This is us leaving.
The passengers didn't realize flight DL-302 was flying in between bands of deadly wind and torrential rain. Up-to-the-minute weather data allowed the flight crew to plot a precise path through the hurricane.
We're still going up. It's a little bumpy.
You could tell the weather was really deteriorating fast, which is, I was kind of nervous about that because they'd reach a point where it just wasn't safe anymore.
All those clouds are Irma. Oh, just get me above these stupid clouds.
Until we were completely above all of the clouds. You can't see the ocean. Until I got to that, I didn't feel comfortable.
29 minutes into the flight, DL-302 finally cleared the last of Hurricane Irma's ferocious weather.
Once we got beyond the hurricane, then it was just a normal flight, and we were pretty exhausted, so we just kind of sat there in a daze waiting to land.
At 4:22 p.m., flight DL-302 touched down at JFK.
It was kind of fun when we landed. Everybody applauded, which for me, I'd never experienced that before.
News of the flight that cheated Hurricane Irma spread worldwide. It was testament to both ingenuity and courage behind the scenes.
Major airlines have their own weather forecasting departments, which give them an idea system-wide what the weather may be. They would have given the crews the information for the crews to make the decision. It was up to the flight crew. If the flight crew refused to fly that flight, it wouldn't have gone.
Hurricane Irma caused at least 134 deaths and left a trail of devastation in its wake. Karen and Jeff only learned the full story of their eye of the needle escape when they got off the plane.
When we got to the baggage carousel, there were reporters all over the place. That's when I think we started to realize, you know, this was kind of cool, I guess, what happened, and more extreme than I thought it was.
Once we found out, we felt very appreciative of what Delta did for us, and we felt very rescued that day.
Next time on World's Worst Flights. A SWAT team storm a holiday flight.
Yeah, you're scared. Are they going to shoot at this person?
Security use force on an overbooked flight. And a passenger is forced to take the controls.
If I want to go and see my grandchildren tonight, I'm going to have to land.